Five Nights at Freddy's is a 2014 open-world survival horror game created by Scott Cawthon. We follow our protagonist Mike Schmidt, a night guard in a defunct branch of the Freddy Fazbear Pizzeria who had to endure a night without being killed by the possessed animatronics. As of 2026, the franchise has spawned 11 games in the main line with plenty of spin-offs, novels, comic series, and 2 movies from Blumhouse Productions. Having 2 young boys in the household, I had my eyes on FNAF at the peak of its popularity, with YouTube channels harping on how they had been spooked by the game and conquering the game which looked like Chuck E. Cheese went demonic. The likes of Freddy, Foxy, and Chica, all standing at 7 feet tall with sharp steel teeth and untempered brutality, chasing you down the dark alley, it was a fuel for nightmare. The popularity of the game meant that there was an interest in the film adaptation in the burner since the inception, and after some turnaround, the rights of the film fall into the hands of Jason Blum of Blumhouse Productions. With a screenplay written by Scott Cawthon himself with Seth Cederbeck and director Emma Tammy, Five Nights delved into the plot of the first FNAF game about Michael Schmidt, played by notable young actor Josh Hutcherson, was struggling to get his act together so that he could get the sole custody of his sister Abby from his financially depraved aunt. During a night shift at his branch of the Freddy Fazbear Pizzeria, the aunt would send a group of ruffians to cause issue at Mike's work, only to find out there were scary entities looming in the place, waiting on their next victims. As Mike, Abby, and the local police officer Vanessa uncover the secret of the pizzeria and the sentient animatronics, as well as the evil perpetrator behind it all. To be honest, the scathing reviews of the first Five Nights movie was mired in was not without basis. It was awfully forgettable, and it felt like targeting not only to young children but solely to lure the fans of the game franchise, and somehow they succeeded, making Five Nights at Freddy's the highest earning movie in Blumhouse production history. This expedited the production of a sequel 2 years after the release of the first movie. There was little fanfare among the horror-loving fraternity, as it was apparent the first movie did not move a needle among horror fans. I was glad that I was watching this movie with my son, and he managed to guide me through with a lot of details with the characters' dynamics and the plot, and how closely certain plot elements took reference from the second FNAF game, as Scott Cawthon had suggested. In the prologue of Five Nights at Freddy's 2, we were teleported back to 1982 when a brunette girl, feeling bored from not able to mingle with the children celebrating birthday in one Freddy Fazbear Pizzeria. She would notice a boy being abducted by an animatronic Freddy from the kitchen. She tried to alarm the adults, who were all too wrapped up with their own conversations, and brushed her off. This little girl, who we were acquainted as Charlotte, would bank on her own gumption to save the boy in distress before meeting a tragic end. Fast forward 20 years, 2 years after the events of the first movie, Mike and Abby were finally getting settled from the legal tussles and the absurdity of dealing with those animatronic creatures. Abby did not have it easy in school, as she was constantly being singled out by the science teacher, Newman. Disheartened, Abby was yearning to find solace in those possessed robots that nearly killed her and her brother. While the cursed pizzeria was burned to the ground in the first movie, Mike did not know that Abby would discover the original branch, which was larger in floor space and even with a lazy river ride, meaning more scary things would be creeping out from the woodworks. Mike was getting close to Vanessa, perhaps because they were sharing that collective post-trauma from the Freddy's incident, yet there was some apprehension from Mike towards Vanessa with her own background, and it was apparent that she was off the police force and had people questioning her sanity. Abby, Mike, and Vanessa would be embroiled into this unknown pizzeria and relive the nightmares from the first movie, this time round with a darker source of evil who felt betrayed by adults and decided to unleash her army of desolate killing machines made by her own killer to slaughter those people who were culpable to her death from 2 decades ago. Going to the sequel, I could barely remember what had happened in the first movie, and I was caught unaware of the various characters, especially the female characters. I had forgotten how Abby had a sentimental remnants with Freddy and his friends, and naturally would be used as the convenient collateral, except this time she was merely a plot element to bring Chica to the foreground, and carry out the marionette's ploy. I had also forgotten about Vanessa and was surprised she had kept the traumatic murder case she had witnessed in her childhood in the dark from Mike, who she had grown close to. The Charlotte story that drove this sequel was fine and bore some connections to the events from the first movie, but the story felt like very convenient to drive this sequel, and having a known name in McKenna Grace from those new Ghostbusters movies, only to be used as a marionette as the evil entity Charlotte's vengeful spirit will assume, felt ridiculous. In fact, most of the key plot points that Cawthon had created for this sequel felt convoluted, and for someone who had not played the games, had either forgotten the unmemorable story from the earlier movie or had not watched the movie itself, you would be like yours truly, getting lost in the ongoings on screen. The Fest to celebrate a disgraced pizzeria was equally absurd, and nothing more but to facilitate the demonic animatronics to roam the streets without raising any eyebrow. Then we have the revelation of a new character with the exact same name as our protagonist. My son tried to explain the relationships and the real deal with the plots of the actual game Cawthon had created. His explanation actually made more sense than all the swerves I had seen on screen. Now let's talk about the visuals and scare factors that Emma Tammy and her team had generated, which, if you love the games and the original movie, you are in luck, as there was almost no difference, or should I say, no effort to do anything different. Being a PG-rated movie, which naturally helped with the windfall in the box office, gore from gruesome kills is almost non-existent, and the scare factor that drove the success of the game, with the fans who were immersed in the nightmarish world having a 7 or 8 feet tall killer animatronic in every dark corner, is not suitable for those with weak hearts. Yet the scare tactics in this movie felt so telegraphed. The newer scary elements of the marionette or the bubble boy did add to the movie, but the novelty did not last long as well. It was easy for me to label the cast member being here for an easy payday. To be truthful, who in the cast can frightfully say they did not sleepwalk through their performances? Even Abby, the child actor, was not memorable at all, like how McKenna Grace committed her performances for Ghostbusters Afterlife and Frozen Empire. Instead, was a non-factor in this movie. Good on Wayne Knight to reduce some weight, and his obnoxious teacher role is fine, similarly not memorable enough. Having Skid Ulrich joining Matthew Lillard in this franchise, when the target audience likely was too young to watch the first Scream movie, felt like something for the Gen X or millennial parents accompanying their children to watch this movie. They did not even share a scene in this movie here. Perhaps something to keep in the back pocket of the filmmakers for that geek out moment in future sequels. Speaking of sequel, it was very blatant part 3 is coming with the cliffhanger at the end of the movie. Released in early December, the movie had already amassed 230 million globally and likely will not fall too far from the 290 million earned from the first film, so another win for Blumhouse and the filmmakers. Like Mike Schmidt being apprehensive with Vanessa Shelley, I am also apprehensive of another run-of-the-mill sequel for this franchise that should not have any reference. Five Nights at Freddy's 2 is a mediocre 5.5 out of 10, and I definitely have to watch the movie with my son when part 3 arrives. Till then, please continue to support my reviews, including this one, by clicking a like and share if you reckon it is worth a share, and definitely hit the subscribe button. Like FNAF, I am contemplating on whether I should review another sequel for the Predator sub-universe from Dan Trachtenberg. Not that those movies were bad. In fact, on the contrary, those were solid. It was just that those movies feel less of the horror genre anymore. Although it will go against their ideology, they do have Haunted Mansion based on their amusement park ride. I wonder if Disney would do their own version of animatronics gone rogue, especially with the amount of urban legends raging over the years.